Exposed. How my sister's 8M loss led to an incredible family transformation. I never expected. David sat in his cramped office, the walls adorned with framed diplomas and dusty accolades. He had always felt like a shadow in his family, with his sister Rachel basking in the golden glow of Wall Street accolades. Yet here he was, tethered to the dusty confines of a small-town law practice, mired in mediocrity while Rachel's bright future crumbled like dried leaves. The news hit him hard. 8 million gone. Betrayal woven into every layer of her corporate world. Whispers of failure pooled around him, and he could feel the weight of his family lineage bearing down. Could he still claim integrity in a society that equated success with wealth? As David battled inner demons, guilt quickly took precedence. Why did Rachel's downfall spark resentment in him? He should have felt compassion, yet he couldn't shake the feeling that her misery eclipsed his own. How could he confront this tangled mess of familial loyalty and buried grievances? The burden of expectations pressed heavily upon his chest as he pictured his sister's face, once radiant with triumph but now shadowed by despair. He was trapped between wanting to help and the fear that he was utterly ill-equipped. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Each moment he delayed pursuing her case felt like another nail in both their coffins, her financial ruin layered over years of resentment. He could hardly breathe, his thoughts colliding in chaotic patterns. Could he face the possibility of failure in court after clawing his way through law school while Rachel had danced through the finance world, mastering every step? This was his chance to emerge from the shadows, but the fear of crashing down alongside her loomed large. David envisioned conversations among neighbors, their judgments slicing through the shame like a hot knife. The weight of their family legacy seemed heavier with each passing day, and Rachel's collapse became a dark mirror reflecting his insecurities as he dove into the labyrinthine case files. The sheer complexity of corporate corruption left him gasping. A tempest brewed within him. Embarrassment, determination, and fear twisted into a tempest that left him unmoored. And then, without warning, an old mentor circled back into his life, a retired judge whose sagely tales grounded David while challenging the ethics of the system he'd long considered immutable. Would he echo the very values that had been instilled in him growing up? Could he couple ambition with the integrity that once defined their family? The moment David began to see glimmers of hope emerge from the murky waters, an unexpected figure lurked back into view: his estranged father. With a carpenter's calloused hands, he revealed stories of unfulfilled dreams and hidden family secrets that could redefine everything David thought he knew. He was left spiraling, grappling with the weight of family loyalty and the murky ethics of ambition. Should he fight tooth and nail for a justice that could ruin their family name? Did he have it in him to reclaim Rachel's dignity when he was not even sure of his own? As he lay awake every night, doubts swirling, David knew the stakes had never been higher. The decision loomed: was the fight worth the fracture it might bring? Each potential victory dampened by the ghost of what their family once symbolized, leaving him staring into an abyss of uncertainty. Would he rise from the ashes of his sister's downfall, or would he be consumed by it? The lines of loyalty were blurred, and David was left with an ever-increasing knot in his gut, unsure of what awaited him just around the corner. As he sat on the precipice of both tragedy and transformation, he felt an undeniable, impending turning point, a choice that could alter not just Rachel's fate, but his own sense of self. David pulled the case files closer, the thick papers presenting an unnerving puzzle that was supposed to be his momentum forward, yet felt more like an anchor. Each page turned unveiled layers of deception that had orchestrated Rachel's downfall, awakening a deep-seated resentment he had tried to suppress. He could no longer ignore the echoing judgments of his childhood, the relentless comparisons that pieced together a narrative of failure etched into his very being. It was time to dismantle that narrative, but could he do it without losing himself entirely? He spent hours sifting through evidence, piecing together financial statements, emails filled with coded language, and the harsh reality of greed's fallout. Each detail he uncovered felt like a mirror reflecting his own insecurities. Was he just as naive? The corporate world had buoyed Rachel for so long, and now it was a tidal wave pulling her down, while David remained a mere spectator ready to take the overhand of life into his own grip. He remembered what his mentor had said about the law, how they wielded it as both sword and shield. Shuffling through the content that had so easily turned to turmoil, he resolved that he would wield it, not just to defend Rachel's honor, but to redefine his own. The determination warred with doubt. He was handling substantial accusations involving people far more powerful and knowledgeable than he, and the anxiety clawed at him, rendering him feverish. Visions of the courtroom began to materialize, a battleground where the stakes were not only Rachel's finances but the fabric of his integrity. He could almost hear the gavel striking, marking a definitive end to the past he had always known and a new beginning he desperately craved. Around midnight, in a moment of desperation, David dialed his father's number, a gesture fueled more by a need for guidance than a reconciliation. The call rattled him. The tension between them had festered over the years. He was not looking for a life coach, merely an insight into survival that he felt was lacking. As the phone rang, he wrestled with whether reaching out was a sign of weakness or a necessary step towards reclaiming his identity. David. His father picked up, voice gruff yet tempered with familiarity. The years of silence hung thick, echoing in the few words spoken. "Dad, I need your advice," he blurted before he could reconsider. The simplicity of the request felt monumental. They spoke tentatively, navigating years of complicated feelings until the conversation developed into a reflection of their mutual struggles, the weight of expectations and the pains of lost aspirations. His father's tales of unfulfilled dreams struck a chord deep within David, uncovering hidden strength woven within stories of hardship. "I always wanted more for you too. I thought pursuing what I lost would save me," his father admitted, his voice trembling. "But you can't traverse the river of ambition blindfolded, son. Learn from your sister's fall." David hung up, a seed of clarity sprouting amid the chaos. The revelations about his father's sacrifices ignited a fierce determination within him. By confronting Rachel's case, he was not only grappling with familial loyalty but blossoming into a version of himself that had long been underdeveloped, an advocate fortified with purpose rather than fear. He returned to the evidence cluttering his desk, eyes narrowing with renewed focus. Those corporate sharks across the aisle, wouldn't he know what hit them? David would thrust himself into the eye of the storm, not just to save Rachel but in an effort to claim the right to exist on his own terms. This meant more than winning. It was about reshaping the narrative attached to his family. With every inch of resolve, the battle lay straight ahead, and David was prepared not just to face the coming trial, but to confront the shadows of his own uncertainty. The time had come to face what had always confined him, entwined with the promise of both salvation and collapse. Little did he know, a challenge lurked just beyond the horizon, one that would test the very fabric of that burgeoning strength. What awaited might just reshape everything he thought he was capable of. The next morning dawned gray and misty, echoing the turmoil inside David's mind. A tinge of urgency propelled him to his small, cluttered office, a space where the walls whispered of both dreams and compromises. He threw open the window, allowing the brisk air to snake in, a reminder that he was alive, aware, and at a decisive turning point. Glimmers of a plan flickered in his mind, fueled by the conversation with his father. There was a new path unfolding, one not solely driven by the desire to save Rachel, but to ignite change within himself. He pulled down the files again, diving headfirst into the sea of information. With each detail he strategized. What if he framed the narrative not just from a legal standpoint but as a tale of redemption and truth? His fingers danced across the keyboard, sending emails to legal experts who had dealt with complex corporate fraud cases. It was a calculated act of desperation, a willingness to expand his support system by seeking insights from those who had treaded similar waters. Confidence surged within him as responses returned, each one reinforcing an aspect of empowerment he had previously neglected. Meanwhile, Rachel's silence loomed in the background. Though she was physically absent, her presence remained a hot ember in the forefront of his mind. He had promised himself he would speak to her soon, to share the new insights not just about her case but about resilience. It was a conversation that would require not only courage but a raw honesty that David felt was long overdue. As the day progressed, David's thoughts shifted between the case and his own reflections. What's my real motivation here? He mulled over the notion. Was he merely trying to vindicate Rachel? Or was this journey more about his desire to finally claim a space, to establish an identity that didn't revolve around failure or expectation? He could feel the past nudging him, narrating tales of a boy who was always second best or barely adequate. Not this time, he resolved. This time would be different. Each interaction with experts pushed him closer to a profound realization: his capacity to fight back. This case wasn't just about monetary losses. It was about the strength necessary to break down barriers, both professional and personal. His capacity to navigate this legal world slowly transformed from sheer naivete into an understanding of the strategic intricacies of law. Then a call from an unexpected source jolted him from his thoughts: a Manhattan firm interested in collaborating. They had heard whispers of the case, and their reputation for tackling corporate giants earned them an instant aura of respect. It was a revelation that momentarily eclipsed his worries. He would meet with them that week, and his resolve solidified. He felt the weight of the moment on his shoulders. This was an opportunity for legitimacy, to forge a link between personal struggle and professional triumph. But amid the exhilaration bubbled a shadow of fear. Would this partnership propel him towards success or expose him to further scrutiny? The enemy was not just the corrupt forces they faced. It was the ever-present echo of self-doubt haunting him, a phantom he needed to confront. As he stared out of his office window, the shimmering skyline clouded by the mist of uncertainty, he realized the battlefield was both internal and external. David had embarked on a mission to reclaim not only Rachel's reputation but his self-worth. The stakes had never felt higher, and every decision mattered. Suddenly, the phone rang again. Who could it be? He hesitated, heart racing, bracing himself for whatever news awaited him. Deep down, he sensed it was more than just business. It felt like a revelation lurking just beneath the surface, promising to challenge everything he thought he knew. As he answered, he prepared himself for the unexpected. What lay on the other end could redefine everything he had worked for. David's heart thudded in his chest as he picked up the phone. A familiar voice came through, thick with anxiety and urgency. It was Sophie, his sister, a beacon of stability in his often chaotic life. "David, I need you to come to lunch. Now," she insisted, her tone leaving no room for argument. Lunch was a simple affair. Just a small cafe 2 blocks from David's office. Yet as he walked, his mind churned, speculating on what could have prompted this urgent call. Sophie was usually unflappable, so what lay behind her request? It wasn't long before he found himself seated across from her, her expression grave. "Is it Rachel?" she asked the moment he sat down. That single question pulled him from the depths of his thoughts, setting his mind racing in new directions. "No, not directly. It's about Mom," he replied, the weight of their family's legacy pressing down on him. Sophie had been in regular contact with their mother, which made him acutely aware of the familial dynamics at play. The mention of their mother made the stakes feel surreal. His family's history had been marred by disappointment and strife. It seemed to echo every time he stepped beyond their front door. Sophie leaned closer, her voice low. "She's been reaching out. I think she wants to talk about what happened with Dad. Not just the case but everything." The words hung in the air, thick and heavy. David's thoughts spiraled back to moments of childhood fraught with tension and unmet expectations. "Why now?" he asked, grappling with an unexpected surge of anger. "Maybe she sees what you're trying to do for Rachel. She wants to acknowledge how her past choices have affected you." Her voice was lost in the white noise of the cafe, but the message was clear. A lifeline was being tossed his way, though he sensed it would demand much more from him than simple agreement. "What do you think?" David's mind raced through scenarios. Would this be another round of family blame? Would it lay bare past grievances as sharp as knives? "I think maybe," Sophie began cautiously, "it's a chance to finally have the hard conversations we've avoided. But it's up to you if you want to take that step." Frustration mingled with the possibility of healing. Did he have the strength to confront those buried memories? In this moment of acute self-reflection, a flicker of determination ignited. He realized that addressing their family's past would not only serve the purpose of healing their family ties, but it was also an essential part of reclaiming his voice. Leaving the cafe, the weight of his decision bore down on him, yet he felt oddly liberated. He wasn't merely moving forward for Rachel's sake anymore. He was acknowledging his own needs, his desire to rise from the ashes of familial disappointments. Storm clouds still lingered in his mind. The path toward personal transformation would be fraught with obstacles. But as the mist from the cafe swirled around him, he felt one truth emerge. The collaboration opportunity with the Manhattan firm now felt like more than just a career milestone. It was becoming a catalyst for deeper change, both in his professional ambitions and personal relationships. The thought of facing their mother didn't sit easily, but the urge to confront his past pushed him onward. What wounds would resurfacing trigger? What truths lay buried in family history? As David stepped into the open air, wind at his back, he realized a critical moment loomed ahead, one that could redefine everything he'd built in his pursuit of purpose and identity. His phone pinged again, pulling him from introspection. It was a message from the Manhattan firm, a reminder about their upcoming meeting. He paused, heart racing. This was not just about Rachel anymore. It was about him seizing control in a life that had often spiraled beyond his grasp. The reality of his choices loomed, each decision branching out like a web of possibilities, tethering him to both hope and fear. As he looked ahead, the city before him pulsed with raw potential, a reflection of the change he desperately craved within himself. But as he took a deep breath, ready to meet every challenge head-on, another ominous ping alerted him, a message from an anonymous source. His heart raced at the uncertainty this new contact generated. What could it reveal about Rachel's case? Or the very world he was trying to navigate? Could this be the push he needed to fully reclaim his identity? Or a perilous twist threatening to unravel his newfound path? David stood on the sidewalk, phone pressed to his ear, internally wrestling with the tide of uncertainty. The message from the unknown number flashed again in his mind. "I know about Rachel. Call me." The street buzzed with the usual New York energy, but for him it felt like the world had momentarily halted, as if the weight of his choices and family history had succeeded in rendering him immobile. "You'll have to excuse me," he murmured to himself, more than to the bustling pedestrians surrounding him. Anxiety stirred within him like a coiled spring, threatening to unhinge the careful equilibrium he'd maintained in recent weeks. What was this about? Could it be linked to the collusion surrounding Rachel's case? In the midst of his turmoil, he could not afford distractions. His meeting with the Manhattan firm loomed closer. It was time to shift the focus from madness to mastery. After a jagged breath, he decided to take his chances and embrace that revelation. The firm's opportunity had emerged as a golden thread weaving through his chaos. It wasn't just an achievement for its own sake. It was a means to assert control over the tensions and fears that constantly gnawed at him. He shook off the anonymity, reminded himself of the strength found in addressing the past. He pulled away from the street and stepped into a nearby park, the verdant canopy a temporary refuge from the urban clamor. Finding a bench, he fished his notebook from his bag, fingers trembling slightly as he began jotting down thought strategies for leveraging his upcoming meeting, and how to communicate effectively. "Focus, David," he muttered, writing key phrases that echoed his intent. Authenticity, clarity, resolve. Each word etched onto the page not only prepared his professional foundation but also crystallized his personal state of mind. In a world where familial expectations had always threatened to drown him, it was time to rise, align his ambitions with his inner truths, and transform his narrative. He processed his thoughts about his mother. The confrontation didn't just have to be about blame or acknowledgement. It could serve as a testament to personal evolution, a bridge from who he once was to who he aspired to be. The realization ignited a fire within him. He could redefine himself not merely by avoiding the familial shadows that loomed but by confronting them with a resolve that came from knowing his worth. As he crafted his meeting notes, a moment of clarity took shape. Professional achievement wasn't solely about how many accolades he could collect. It was about building something alive and connected to his deepest values. "It's about integrity," he whispered, feeling a sudden pulse of conviction. He pictured himself addressing the firm, standing tall before them, unearthing the truths he had buried under the weight of expectations. His phone buzzed again, cutting through the introspective ethos building around him. It was a reply to the anonymous message. "Meet me at the old diner on 5th at 7 p.m. You need to know." Visions of uncertainty flashed in his mind, But he steadied himself. This could be the reckoning he needed, the push to fully embrace the complexities of his life rather than shying away from them. The choice weighed heavy. Balancing the need for clarity in his work with uncertain family entanglements demanded more than he felt he had to give. But that's where growth lay, in the murky spaces between discomfort and discovery. He exhaled sharply, writing down the meeting time in his notes before closing his notebook with a decisive snap. The determination surging through him felt tangible, ready to manifest in the hours ahead. Could this meeting with the anonymous source unravel the truth behind Rachel's situation? Would he finally piece together the missing fragments of his identity? As evening approached, shadows danced across the park, paralleling the uncertainties weaving into his thoughts. He could feel himself standing at the precipice of change, ready to leap but acutely aware that the landing would reshape everything he understood about his family and himself. He slipped his notebook back into the bag, breathed in deeply, and felt the chill of the wind against his skin. Tonight, darkness would not just cloud his past. It would illuminate new paths he'd never considered before. A different possibility awaited him, one shrouded in intrigue and transformation. With a purposeful stride, he made his way back into the bustling streets, determined to face whatever lay ahead. The moment had come. He was ready to face more than just the industry challenges ahead. The essence of his journey awaited. Would he find clarity or chaos waiting for him at that diner on Fifth? David glanced at his watch, adrenaline coursing through his veins like a sharp current. The hands ticked closer to 7 p.m., propelling him toward the diner and the uncertainty awaiting him. Each step towards the old establishment felt laden with both foreboding and anticipation. He paused for a moment at the entrance, taking a deep breath to ground himself before he pushed through the door, a bell jingling loudly above his head. Inside, the diner was a time capsule, merging the nostalgic scent of grease and coffee with the meeting of the past and an uncertain future. He scanned the room, looking for any sign of the individual who had sent that cryptic message. As his eyes adjusted to the dim lighting, he noted a booth in the corner empty, yet looming as if it were waiting for him. David settled into the booth, drawing the deep red vinyl seats around him like armor. He needed to be prepared for anything, particularly given how interconnected his family's issues had become with Rachel's turmoil. His mother's expectations flared hot in his mind, reminding him of her unyielding belief in control and appearances. Would he disappoint her again by diving into complicated truths that threatened their careful facade? He set his notebook on the table, flipping through the pages he had filled with thoughts meant for his upcoming meeting. Clarity and resolve stared back at him, almost taunting in the quiet. Yet, he felt compelled to bring them into this moment. The act of preparing had emboldened him, allowing him to articulate what he wanted and needed not just for his career aspirations, but for his own growth. Then, the bell jingled again, this time announcing a cloaked figure at the entrance. With slow deliberation, the person stepped inside, their face obscured by the shadow of a wide-brimmed hat. David's heart raced as the figure approached his booth, sliding into the seat across from him. "David," they spoke, their voice low but unmistakably tense. "Who are you?" He leaned forward, instinctively taken aback. "Let us just say I have an interest in Rachel's case," they replied cryptically. "And I know a lot more than you might think." The gravity of the statement weighed on him. He could feel the stirrings of existential dread mingling with intrigue. "What do you know?" "More than just your sister's financial loss," the figure continued, their eyes piercing through the dim light. "I know that your family has secrets that may engulf you if you don't confront them." The word struck him like a physical blow. Secrets? He had been so focused on navigating the family's complex relationship with Rachel's situation that he'd neglected his own buried issues. What might he discover if he dared to dig deeper? Was the mystery of his family's past woven through the fabric of his current predicament? "This isn't just about Rachel," the figure pressed. "This is about what you're willing to reclaim from your family's history, the strength or the shame." David's mind raced. The opportunity to finally confront the shadows that had shaped his identity danced tantalizingly before him. Could he truly be prepared for that kind of reckoning? As he searched the depths of their gaze, he felt an awakening stirring within, an unquenchable thirst for clarity. "And what do I need to know?" His voice came out steadier than he felt. "You have to decide what you're willing to lose and what you're willing to fight for." The figure's tone turned grave. and this isn't just about Rachel anymore. The stakes had just escalated, transforming a singular encounter into a crucial turning point in his life. David grappled with the enormity of his choices, as the diner's ambient noise faded into a dissonant blur. The challenge ahead loomed larger than anything he had faced before. "Are you ready to dig?" the stranger asked, a subtle challenge lingering in their question. David's gaze drifted beyond the booth, feeling the weight of his family's expectations clutch at his throat. The time for evasions was over. He was poised on the edge of transformation, the precipice demanding action. The conversation with Rachel's unknown connection could shatter the remains of his constructed life, or build something entirely new. Taking a deep breath, he steadied himself. The answer to that question would echo across every part of his existence, and the moment had arrived. He was ready to confront the chaos of his family's past. "What do I need to do?" he asked, determination knotting tightly in his gut. The figure leaned in, their next words crackling with potential revelation. "First, you need to face your mother. With that, everything would change." David sat in the booth, the words hanging in the air like a heavy fog. "Face my mother." A command that both frightened and empowered him, as if he had been handed a weapon without knowing how to wield it. His mind grasped at the implications. What would confronting her really mean? Would it expose them, or would it be an opportunity to reclaim parts of himself he had long suppressed? The ominous figure across from him watched, their eyes unwavering. It unnerved him, yet he couldn't look away. Their presence was magnetic, drawing forth the parts of him that had been stifled under years of familial pressure. "Why her? Why now?" he muttered, barely aware of his own voice. "Because she holds the key," they said with a calm conviction. "And whatever you uncover could either free you or trap you further in her grasp. You need to decide what path you want to forge. Are you ready to take that risk?" His chest tightened at the challenge. He had continuously lived under the shadow of his mother's expectations, a constant performance dictated by her perspective on success and stability. Beyond the surface, he understood this was less about her and more about his choices, his life. The booth felt stifling as he imagined the confrontation looming ahead. His mother's icy demeanor flashed through his mind, her words cutting deeper than he cared to admit. "It's not what you think, David," he could hear her say, her tone even and controlled, an echo of dismissiveness veiled as concern. He clenched his jaw. Did he really want to rehash old wounds? To challenge the facade she had maintained? Yet that question, igniting the fire of determination inside him, stirred something beyond fear. His determination surged through his veins, vibrant and alive. "Tell me what I need to do." The challenge in his own voice surprised him. He was a man transformed by the weight of his realization. There was power in the decision to confront his past, to dismantle the illusions that had shaped his family's narrative. The figure's lips curled into a faint smile, whether from anticipation or approval, he couldn't tell. "Start by understanding your own story. Write down everything you remember about your family, the good, the bad, the secrets lurking beneath polished facades. Then when you sit down with her, you'll have clarity on just how much you're willing to fight for." Writing. The idea seemed mundane compared to his monstrous task. "Yes," they replied sharply, "writing is a form of confrontation. It will expose not only the family's truth but your own truths too. It allows you to disentangle your identity from hers, to establish what belongs to you and what does not." This resonated deeper than any advice he had received before. His history and identity had felt intertwined with hers, molded by fear and expectation. Pen and paper would symbolize both his rebellion and his emancipation. For the first time, anger mingled with excitement. The chance to reshape his narrative sparked within him as he finally nodded. The figure rose slowly, their cloak billowing slightly, casting a fleeting shadow over him. David caught their gaze again, searching the depths of their resolve. "Will you help me find the courage to do this?" he asked resolutely. "I'm only here to guide you to your own courage. The decisions, the paths, those lie within you." With that, the figure departed, leaving him enveloped by a sense of possibility. The diner, with its grime and warmth, felt alive, as if it had just witnessed the birth of a potential transformation. He glanced at his notebook, suddenly eager to fill those pages with his truth. Determined to articulate the chaos and clarity of his heart, David unleashed his pen. Words streamed onto the paper, capturing moments of panic and pride, shame and resilience. Yet, with each stroke, a new hesitation emerged. What if he dug too deep? What if he shattered the facade entirely? It was tempting to retreat, wrapped in the safety of ignorance. As he closed the notebook, a shiver of realization coursed through him. This was not just about uncovering secrets, it was about reconstructing himself. Tension twisted within him, splintering the notion of family and leaving raw, open questions at the surface. Suddenly, clarity broke like dawn. I have to do this, he whispered to himself, tinged with urgency. No matter the cost. He knew whom he needed to speak to next. Not just his mother, but also his sister Rachel. They shared a bond steeped in both betrayal and love, and this journey wouldn't be whole without her. David left the diner, resolve washing over him like a tide, a blend of fear and anticipation invigorating each step. With a new plan igniting within him, he wasn't just meeting the stranger's challenge, he was embracing the unknown. The moment to uncover not only his family's history but also his own had arrived. When he faced his mother, he would face himself too. But would Rachel join him in this exploration, or would she choose a different path? That question clawed at him as he set out, propelling him toward the uncertainty that awaited. David approached Rachel's apartment, each step becoming a rhythm of anticipation and dread. The moment he had been preparing for slowly materialized in his mind. She would be a vital ally or an unyielding barrier depending on how she welcomed the truth he was ready to confront. His hand lingered over the doorbell, hesitating as memories flooded in. The laughter they shared as children mingled with the sharp exchanges and silent treatments that had become more common as they navigated adulthood. Would she understand? Would her own reservations complicate his quest for clarity? He pressed the doorbell and waited, a tension coiling within him. When the door swung open, Rachel's gaze was a mask of surprise and concern. David? What's going on? I need to talk, he replied, forcing the words out in a steadier tone than he felt. She stepped aside, allowing him entrance into the warmth of her living room. It was filled with lingering scents of her favorite candles mixed with the bittersweet air of something unresolved. This place had been one of their escapes. It was now a battleground for emotional honesty. As the door clicked shut behind him, David took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts. I'm on a path, something like a quest, he began, unnecessarily complicating the straightforwardness he meant to convey. Her eyebrows furrowed slightly, inviting him to clarify. I need to face Mom, he confessed, the words tumbling out in one breath. I've been thinking about our past, about the way our family has shaped us. Rachel's expression shifted from confusion to alarm. You want to confront her? After everything? David nodded, feeling the weight of her concern. It's not just about her, Rachel. It's about us, the secrets and the narratives we've lived by. They've influenced my choices, and I can't keep living under the weight of them. I want to know what's true. Her arms crossed defensively. Her eyes searches his for something reassurance? Validity? What if you uncover things better left buried? She asked, voice tight with worry. What if you regret it? Maybe I won, he countered, sensing the urgency brewing in the pit of his stomach. Maybe this is about claiming my story, and that means revealing it all, including the bad parts. I can't let fear dictate my life anymore. Silence enveloped them, the tension palpable in the space shared between their different paths. I want you to know the truth, too, David continued, the hesitance receding into the background. We've lived divided by these unsaid things. I want to rebuild, to connect again. But I can't do it alone. Rachel, caught in his intensity, seemed to soften. He saw a flicker of contemplation in her eyes. What if she won? Listen. She will listen because I'm ready to stand my ground, he said, conviction rising with each word like a shield forming around him. But I need you by my side. She might hear you differently. You've always had a way of finding the right words. David could almost see the wheels turning in Rachel's mind, the gears of familial loyalty and protection battling with the longing for personal truth. She had endured her own struggles. How much had he really considered her journey? Would she see his desire to confront their mother as a shared endeavor, or another betrayal of trust? Okay, she finally said, the release of a breath transforming tension into determination. I'll do it. But you have to promise me something in return. Anything, he replied, already embracing the possibilities that surged within him. Let us keep it honest. No matter how painful it gets, we need to be real. Otherwise, this means nothing, she articulated, her eyes steeled with an undeniable strength. David felt a thrill at her words, a sense of unexpected solidarity bonding them in their silent pact of courage. As they stood united in the shadows of their familial past, David couldn't help but wonder about the power of their confrontation. Together, they would lay bare not only the truths of their upbringing, but also their mutual vulnerabilities. Would they survive it? Then let us start preparing, he said, excitement mixing with apprehension, visualizing the truths they would unearth. What do we need to unravel first? Before Rachel could answer, an unexpected wave of self-doubt surged within him, accompanied by a flimsy thread of fear that whispered, what if this exploration tore them apart instead of bringing them together? David froze, the weight of those questions nudging their way to the forefront yet again. Would every revelation cultivate growth, or would his pursuit of truth dismantle their fragile relationship? Their journey into their family's murky past had begun, and the stakes felt higher than either anticipated, the shadows of the unknown stretching before them. But how far would they be willing to go to confront the truth, and could it ultimately lead them to the freedom they sought? David's mind raced as he considered their next steps. Was he fully prepared to dive headfirst into this unknown territory? He had spent years trying to manage the effects of their tumultuous family dynamic. Now he was on the brink of tearing down the walls of silence that had both protected and imprisoned them. Would confronting their mother, the architect of so many unspoken grievances, yield healing or chaos? Okay. Rachel finally broke the silence, her voice steady yet tinged with complexity. If we're going to do this, we need a plan. We can't just march in there unprepared. That struck a chord. David knew that confronting their mother wouldn't be a casual drop-by. There were layers of emotions festering beneath the surface that needed to be navigated with utmost caution. The prospect of unraveling painful truths lit a fire within him, but he also felt like a flame flickering precariously close to being extinguished. Maybe we should list the things we want to address? What are our biggest concerns? David suggested, eager for a roadmap. Perhaps that structure would ground him amidst the emotional turbulence. Rachel nodded, her brow furrowing as she pulled out her phone to take notes. We can each make a list. What's our priority? For me, it's the way she brushes off her flaws like they don't even exist. It's infuriating. But we're also tangled in the way we internalize those flaws. David's heart raced. Rachel's honesty was refreshing, yet he felt a knot tighten in his stomach. I want to get clarity on my own decisions, especially regarding my career. I've been stepping back out of fear of her judgment. It's always been easier to play it safe than face her expectations. The truth of that statement lingered like a bitter aftertaste. He had allowed their mother's shadow to loom over his aspirations for too long. With Rachel as his ally, this was an opportunity to recalibrate the narrative. I don't want to retreat anymore, he said, his voice firm. It's time to reclaim my choices. Rachel offered a tentative smile, acknowledging their shared burden. And maybe we can confront what happened between her and Dad. Neither of us has ever really processed that. It's pivotal. We can't move forward without addressing it. As they sculpted their lists, David felt a seismic shift in his perception. They weren't just preparing for an argument. They were creating a foundation for understanding, a path to reconciliation. This wasn't merely about confrontation. It was about liberation, finding a voice in the midst of chaos. The lists morphed into more than simple reminders. They became symbols of their shared commitment. Each item represented something they were willing to excavate, uncover, and confront, no matter how uncomfortable it might get. The prospect felt exhilarating yet terrifying, like standing at the edge of a cliff, poised to leap into the unknown. Once they finished, Rachel's eyes flickered with the unmistakable spark of determination. All right, how do we want to initiate this? Should we call her or go over to her house? David pondered the options. Calling would invite immediate confrontation, a storm before the calm. But showing up might signal they were ready to brace whatever came their way. Let us go see her, he finally decided, the resolve surprising even him. It adds a level of seriousness to our intent. If we approach her with the confidence of our preparation, we could stand a better chance of being heard. With their plan taking shape, Anticipation coursed through him. But lurking in the background like a shadow was the question that had haunted him since they strategized. What if they stirred up more than they could handle? As David rose from the couch, he glanced at Rachel, noticing the quiet determination etched on her face. "We're really doing this," he said, realization dawning. Rachel nodded slowly, and for a moment, they simply exchanged glances, her eyes reflecting both support and a glimmer of fear, his entwined with steely resolve. Together, they were stepping into a perilous arena, ready to confront the ghosts of their past. But with each step forward, something dark clawed at the edges of David's mind. How damaged were they really? And could the search for truth ultimately lead to reconciliation? Or would it further entrench their fractures? The path ahead felt strewn with both promise and peril, and the only thing certain was that their confrontation loomed ever closer. "Let us meet tomorrow," early Rachel stated, breaking through his thoughts. As they began to part ways, David felt the weight of their impending journey settle on his shoulders. The time had come to face not just their mother, but everything they had buried for far too long. Would their shared courage lead them further from pain, or deeper into a family saga of unraveling truths? David stood at the threshold of his childhood home, the sun filtering through the foliage like 1,000 nerves crackling with electricity. Just moments ago, a knot of determination had tightened within him as he strode towards the door, signaling the culmination of weeks of wrestling with buried truths. He had never imagined that confronting his past would be so monumental, yet here he was on the brink of transformation. Beside him, Rachel's presence served as a grounding force. This time, their familial legacy wouldn't sink under the weight of expectations or silence. Instead, they would carve a new path, one of openness and courage that could breathe life into their fractured relationship. As David knocked, he felt the rush of adrenaline fueling his heart. When their mother opened the door, her expression was a blend of curiosity and surprise, instantly drawing them back into shared histories piled high with expectations. A welcoming smile tugged at her lips, yet it quickly shifted to uncertainty. "David? Rachel? What's going on?" The air thickened with unspoken words as David hesitated, suddenly grappling with the enormity of their mission. Taking a deep breath, he stepped forward, determination anchoring his feet. "Mom, we need to talk." The room filled with an ominous silence, but David pressed on. As he and Rachel launched into their carefully prepared points, articulating their past grievances alongside newfound aspirations, he sensed their mother's defenses rattling. One by one they unveiled painful truths, revealing the ways her perfectionism had shaped their identities. "You've chased after this image of success, Mom," Rachel implored, her voice steady yet laden with emotion. "It's made us fearful, constantly seeking your approval while feeling like we could never measure up." David watched as their mother flinched, the flicker of pride that had once defined her now wavering. With each declaration, he felt a sense of weight lifting, a catharsis blossoming among years of suppressed emotions. The truth ignited flames of courage within him, allowing him to relinquish the shackles of fear he'd worn for far too long. But as they navigated through the layers of their history, their mother fought back with a tenacity born out of her need to control the narrative. "You don't understand," she countered, voice tinged with both defiance and vulnerability. "I pushed you because I wanted better for you. I didn't want you to suffer the same disappointments I did." "By silencing us?" David volleyed back, heart racing with realization. "You taught us to fear failure, and now that fear has consumed us both. We're here not to blame but to find our way back to each other." The fight that raged on was a paradox of tension and tenderness, ultimately exposing the fracture in their familial dynamic, while hinting at a potential resolution. As the chaos ebbed, David saw sincerity in his mother's eyes, a glimmer of realization that resonated with his own shift in perspective. He was not just fighting for the past, he was reclaiming his narrative. "Maybe I've held the reins too tightly," she finally conceded, her voice quivering. "I wanted you to be strong, yet perhaps I made strength synonymous with silence." In that moment, an unshakable understanding passed between them. The resonance echoed through the air, a fragile bridge spanning years of pain, glimmers of hope fluttering on the other side. David's heart swelled as he felt the rocky ground of their past begin to yield. He knew this was not the end but the beginning, a chance to reshape their family's approach to vulnerability and connection. "We need to build trust again," he proposed, forging ahead with the bravery he had cultivated. Let's promise each other to communicate openly. No more playing roles. We must share honestly the good and the bad. His mother's nod felt like an irrevocable promise, a commitment to change that packed its weight around their fragile reconnection. As they closed that chapter, David realized he had conquered not just another unified voice within his family but a louder voice within himself. No longer would familial expectations dictate his self-worth, nor would he sway under the gravity of silence. Days turned into weeks, and David emerged renewed, buoyed by both personal growth and collective healing. Recognized not just as Rachel's brother, but as an individual forging his way into the legal world with conviction, he secured a partnership at the Manhattan firm. The triumph brought forth a sense of accomplishment as he stepped into courtrooms armed with newfound confidence. He understood he was carving his unique identity beyond familial confines. The journey into honesty had transformed the very fabric of his existence. David reveled in the relationships he nurtured, feeling affirmed as he learned to draw from resilience instead of retreating into shadows. When he and Rachel gathered for Sunday dinner at the old family table, the air that once bore the weight of expectation was now light. Laughter-peppered conversations, echoes of shared victories mingling with the authenticity they dared to uncover together, each story strengthening their bond. David leaned back, satisfaction washing over him. Each challenge, each confrontation had forged a resolute sense of self, and a newfound familial connection that honored both their histories and futures. As he looked across the table, he knew they had transcended the legacy that once defined them. They were rewriting their narrative, one where vulnerability and courage stitched the seams of their family history into an unshakable tapestry. Now is the pivotal moment. You need to subscribe now to ensure you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and let your voice be heard. Comment your thoughts and theories about this captivating conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative journey of overcoming. This is your chance to support a channel that champions powerful personal stories.